Hello and welcome to Digesting the Soul. Shamanism is an ancient spiritual practice, and the word shaman originates from the Tungus tribe in Siberia, and it simply translates to spiritual healer. I'm excited today because I'm going to be sharing with you my personal experience working with a shaman and having the ceremony of a soul retrieval performed. So if this is something that you're interested in, please stay tuned, because one of the first things I'm going to go over is how you can determine if you indeed may have some soul loss, and a soul retrieval ceremony might be something of value to you. So please stay tuned. I just want to quickly mention before I begin that the tree trunk behind me on my property is actually a jacaranda tree. And if you have never seen a jacaranda in full bloom, it is quite a sight to see. They have these kind of vibrant electric purple flowers. So if you stay tuned after the video, when the music credits rolled, I am going to insert a photo so you can see this majestic tree. So I have been practicing shamanism for really only 3 years, and how I learned about it was I was at a book signing event, and the presenter had a chapter on soul retrieval, which up until that point I had never even heard of, and I had never studied shamanism. And she did an exercise that I found fascinating, and you can do it here today. And basically what she said was, please tell me, without thinking it through too quickly, what is the first thing that quickly comes to your mind? And she said, what percentage of your soul is missing? And I thought that was really neat, and everybody is like stirring in the crowd, and everybody has different numbers. And she really went into detail about her experience with soul retrieval and the benefits of it. So I went home and I immediately began researching it, and it was sort of a synchronistic event, because where the book signing was held was like a metaphysical store. There happened to be a shaman who worked there. And so I went back to the same location and eventually made an appointment to work with her. So first, I'm just going to start off with defining for you soul. And shamans believe that soul is simply our essence. It's our life force. It's vitality. And most shamans believe that illness is due to soul loss. And the theory behind the soul retrieval is that when we suffer any trauma, like significant emotional or physical trauma, that pieces or fragments of our soul flee to seek protection and to survive the traumatic experience. And so there are some events that are believed that can lead up to a person experiencing soul loss. And the first would be abuse of any sort. So that would be physical, mental, emotional, chronic illness, obviously, since shamans believe the illness is due to soul loss. Any major accidents, surgeries, hospitalizations, being on heavy medications, really just any major life events that have caused a real shock to your system. And things like divorce or death of a loved one, and simply just those events that you really are having a hard time getting over. And some of the common symptoms you may experience when you have soul loss is chronic fatigue, when you don't feel fully present in your body, You don't feel present and engaged in life. You're experiencing depression, significant grief. You may suffer from stress disorders or immune disorders. And then, of course, addictions. And I know most of us, when you hear addiction, you're thinking alcohol and drugs, but really addiction is anything that we do to excess, and usually to distract ourselves from an underlying issue. So that can include eating, shopping, gambling, watching TV, being gaming, exercising. It really can be anything. And then there are some common phrases that you might find yourself using that could indicate soul loss as well. And those are phrases like, I feel shattered, I'm falling apart, I feel broken, I feel torn apart, I need to pull myself together, I feel off balance, off kilter, I feel spacey, numb, I feel like something is missing, I don't know who I am anymore. So you may have a combination of those events, those symptoms, and maybe those phrases might be pertinent to you. And really, to define a soul retrieval ceremony, it's when a shaman goes on a spiritual journey into what they term non-ordinary world, and they go there to discover the reasons behind why parts of your soul has left and sought this protection. And then what a shaman does is, through discussion, he coaxes back your soul parts, and then he returns them back into your body. So what a shaman does typically is they go into an altered state using a drum, a rattle, or some combination of them. And they're doing this because this is how they achieve an altered state. And the beat of the drum or the rattle is facilitating their brain waves into the theta range, and that is where deep relaxation happens. It's when the state you're in when you're meditating, sometimes in hypnosis, and this is believed to be the most ideal state for healing to occur. So in the philosophy of the shamans, there is the lower world, the middle world, and the higher world. And when they perform a soul retrieval ceremony, they are entering the lower world. And what they usually are doing is often entering the trunk roots of a tree. They're making an entrance so that they can get down beneath the earth. And in this lower world is where they meet up with their spirit guides and also animal guides as they begin their spiritual journey, hoping to meet your lost soul parts. So the very first place that they travel to is what they call the Chamber of Wounds. And this basically is where they discover your original wounding, basically the core of whatever issue it is that you had. And in my specific case, I went to try to get to the root cause of a chronic illness that I'd had since I was 20. So the shaman in their trance state will be shown the age of your soul when this event occurred, like where it occurred, how it occurred, if there are any perpetrators involved. And the Chamber of Wounds is really where all of our repressed memories are, the things that we don't want to deal, we may not be conscious of or not remember anymore. And one of the things that can happen after the completed ceremony is that you may have long forgotten or repressed memories come up to the surface due to this ceremony. Now, the second chamber, or the second place, is where the shaman will review your soul contract. So this is where they learn what you came to learn on Earth or what to achieve on Earth, and they'll also see any soul contracts that you may have with specific people, particularly if they're related to what your core issue is that you're trying to heal in this lifetime. Now, it should be mentioned that if you believe in past lives, there are soul retrievals where the shaman does not go back to like a younger version of yourself. They will meet with a past life version of yourself, and that might be a soul contract also from many, many, many lifetimes ago that you haven't overcome and you're still dealing with in this life. The other thing I didn't mention is sometimes we're not the only cause of a fractured soul and missing pieces. Sometimes a shaman believes that it can be stolen from you, and I kind of liken that to our modern term where we kind of view people as energy vampires. You know, they drain your energy. If you saw my video I did on etheric cleansing and cutting cords, it'd be the same philosophy. And they also believe that your soul parts can be given away. And I think like a modern interpretation of that is you hear the phrase giving your power away to other people. So after the Chamber of Wounds, the soul contract, then what the shaman does is he goes into a chamber of treasures. And this is where they bring back for you a medicine gift, or you might call it a spiritual tool. And this is to simply help you on your spiritual path and growth. And this tool is supposed to assist you with ensuring and maintaining that the soul parts that he brings back into your body, this will assist you, these tools, in helping them remain with you. And then lastly, what the shaman is going to bring back is a power animal. And this symbolically represents the animal characteristics or behaviors that will also assist you in the healing. The type of energy of that animal will be symbolic in what you need to like overcome or what you need more of in your life. And that's a pretty fascinating aspect of it as well. So specifically, when I did my soul retrieval journey, I met with the shaman first, and we sat down and discussed exactly what my concerns were, what I was hoping to achieve. And as I said, for me, it was getting to the root cause of a health issue that I had. And then what occurred was I was asked to lay down on a table, and I was handed two crystals, like wands, crystal wands. I held one in each hand. I laid down. A beautiful blanket was placed over me, and then more crystals were laid on top of the blanket over me. And she turned on some music, and then she was standing over me, and she began chanting, and she was using some rattles. And she started the ceremony by calling in like north, south, east, west, and calling in her power animals and her guides, and stating you know, the intention of why we were there and what we were going to achieve for me personally. And then what was unexpected for me was there was a lot of breath work involved, and so she would tell me to take deep breaths in and to release breaths, and it went on for quite some time. And it was pretty emotional, and I wasn't expecting that either. Tears were just streaming out of both of my eyes, and it sort of felt like every pain and sorrow I've ever experienced was being released from my body. So it was pretty intense. And she then put me on, or we went through a guided, like a visual guided journey. And like I entered the tree trunks, I entered down into the lower world, and then she had me create a beautiful door in detail, and I would relay what I was seeing, and then she would have me enter the door, and then I would go into a healing room, and then she would have me describe the healing table in detail. She had me then call in any spirit guides, and to my surprise, some guides came in, and then I described those guides to her, and that was a pretty unique experience. And then she started continuing chanting and saying things and kind of what felt like moving energy over my body as I lay on the table with my eyes closed. And I don't know if this part is specific to me, because I've worked with numerous different types of healers. One thing that I always experience that sort of validates that healing is happening is my body will start to like twitch and jerk, and it's involuntary and I can't control it. And to me that signifies that something is happening, something is exiting my body or becoming in alignment or cleansing. I'm not sure what it is, and if anybody also experiences this during healing ceremonies, please let me know in the comment section, because I don't know how common this is or if this is just something that I go through, but my body was really starting to like move and twist and jerk and stuff, and but I knew it was a good thing, so I was trying to stay relaxed through it. Then what she did was she sat next to me and she got out her drum, and this went on for some time, and then she went into her trance state and she began traveling to the underworld to find the pieces of my missing soul. And when she was completed with that, she stood up again, she had the rattle again, and what she started doing was returning the missing pieces of my soul into the correlating chakras, and she would blow them in. And she may have been using a feather, I can't remember now. A lot of times my eyes were closed. And when that whole process was done, I slowly sat up and we sat down in her healing room. And then she in detail went over the whole process of her soul retrieval journey. She told me about the age of the soul piece, of when that event happened and all the details, who was involved, basically suggested some incidences related to my soul contract I had with this person as to why I had manifested this illness, and it was very relevant and valid to me. It correlated to my past life regression, and obviously I did not tell any of this information to the shaman. There's no way they could have known any of this information, so I felt that it was very valid, it was real. There's no way she could have known these things about me. And then when she went into the Chamber of Treasures, she brought back for me a kaleidoscope, and that had some real personal significance to me, so that was very fun. And then she brought back a power animal to me, and this is, for me personally, the most profound aspect of it, because nobody in my life would know anything about this particular animal that she brought back to me, how significant it was. It was a very private and personal thing that no one would have known, and in particular the color of the animal that she said. So it really seemed real. No better way to say it for such a subjective spiritual experience. It really appeared that she went somewhere on a different alternate timeline, like an alternate or a parallel universe, and saw things. And I took notes as she was telling me, and that's the one thing, this first session, it wasn't recorded. I think if I ever worked with her again, I would ask to record it, at least the end when she's telling you about her journey, because it is an intense experience. It was over 2 hours long, and so you don't want to miss any details. It would have been nice to have a recording of it, but I did take notes, and she gave me some like tips of things I could do. One of them included like dancing and things, and she gave me a prayer to recite, things that will help you keep the missing pieces that have just been returned to you, and to work with them and to honor them, and things like that. So overall, I found it to be an amazing experience. I have since gone and worked with a second shaman because I did want to see what the difference was, and there was a big difference, maybe in how it was executed, but still the profound experience and them revealing things that they have no way of knowing was the same. And one of the things, the belief that shamans have is that when you go through the process of a soul retrieval and these pieces are brought back to you, that the gifts are you will discover talents or abilities, skills that you didn't realize you had, abilities that may have never been utilized or forgotten about, that they'll come back in full force. And the other most common thing that happens after a soul retrieval is that it'll greatly impact your dreams. And like I said, you may even have repressed memories come up for you and things like that. It really impacted my dreams, and dreaming is a whole nother video that eventually I am going to be making. It's very personal to me because I have experienced for much of my life prophetic dreaming, and I had probably 3 of the most profound dreams I've ever had that night after having the soul retrieval ceremony performed. So that was really, really intense for me, and I felt like something opened for me. I was really fatigued 24 hours later after this, like kind of even bordering like feeling unwell. I don't think that's normally how people feel, because when I spoke to her, she said, you know, just drink a lot of water and rest, but usually people feel like lighter, elated, you know, energized. And after a day or 2, I did return to my normal state of being. And what was most profound for me is that one of the reasons why I wanted to get to the core of my illness that had manifested for so many years in my life is I felt it was always restricting me from moving forward on a lot of things that I wanted to achieve and accomplish. And I would say literally in a month's time, I just started all these projects and had such a momentum in moving forward, and it's really never stopped. And I do correlate it to having this ceremony performed, that there was a benefit, as subjective as it may be. You can't exactly measure it. It is something that you're going to need to determine for yourself, the before and the after, and kind of know if anything has changed in your life or what areas. But it is definitely an experience that I highly recommend if you're into any type of spiritual practice. And like I said, you know, I have quite a big library on metaphysical topics and spiritual and paranormal and alternative healing. And I had always looked over the shamanism section. I thought, oh, I have no interest in that. That's not for me. And the interesting thing is, now that I've read several books on it and met and worked with shamans, it is probably a spiritual practice that most correlates with my core beliefs and my philosophy and how I feel about the world, and particularly because it is so earth-centered and animal-centered, and that's definitely a big part of my own personal life, nature and being at one and things like that. So if it's something that you have never studied or researched, I am going to put kind of the 4 core books that I first read, written by American shamans. That was an introduction to me about the soul retrieval process before I actually went and met with a shaman. So I will leave that in the detailed section for you. So hopefully I've covered the majority of my soul retrieval experience, but please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. For me, if you have experienced a soul retrieval, it would be great to hear just a tad bit about your experience in the comment section as well. So as always, I'm wishing everybody great health and all the best, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.
Go out and find your